Congressional districts will be on the minds of lawmakers in Tallahassee later this month during a special session on redistricting. But lawmakers don't have the Supreme Court ruling that Governor DeSantis cited as the reason for the special session. As our Capitol Bureau reporter Cody Butler explains, the governor wants the Republican supermajority to move forward no matter what.
Governor Ron DeSantis wants state lawmakers back here in Tallahassee to redraw congressional boundaries before the Supreme Court rules on the Louisiana voting rights case.
I think that's appropriate whether the decision comes before we do it or after.
Governor Ron DeSantis continues to make his case to redraw congressional boundaries before the midterms. His special session order cites a Supreme Court case out of Louisiana dealing with the Voting Rights Act.
I also think we know how that Supreme Court case is going to come out at this point. I don't think there's much of a dispute about that. And I think Justice Alito's writing the opinion.
Senate President Ben Albriton's office says he still agrees with his memos to his senators in January that they should wait until they get more guidance from the Supreme Court. U.S. House districts are typically redrawn once a decade immediately after a census. Florida has a constitutional amendment banning political gerrymandering. Many states are going into the midterms with new boundaries after President Donald Trump asked to keep more Republicans in Congress.
Republicans nationwide have been scrambling to redraw our maps and rewrite the rules to defend their slim majority in Congress, redistricting in red states and trying to trick voters off the rolls with the SAVE Act.
Voters agree. A recent Emerson College poll shows the majority of voters think this is a bad idea.
The timing could not, frankly, be worse to have this special session.
The information lawmakers would use to draw new maps would be the same as the current maps drawn in 2022. Political analyst Susan McManus says there's still a lot of uncertainty ahead of the special session.
There's so many balls in the air right now, and you can bet that a lot of them have been looking at maps or thinking about how maps be drawn, what lawsuits could happen.
This special session will begin on April 20th. In Tallahassee, I'm Cody Butler reporting.